So here I am using Distress Oxide ink to color white cardstock, and I'm going a little bit darker on the edge and using a brush to brush that on, but I don't want a smooth flat color on the cardstock. I want it to have some visual texture, so I'm going to spray my work surface here with water and pick that ink up with the cardstock, and that gives it kind of a mottled textured look on the cardstock. And I'm going to do this for all 5 colors. And so now you see me lining up the border die, and I'm going to run it through my mini maker. And I'm just putting it in place here and using a little washi tape to hold it in place, and then put my sandwich together and then put it through the mini maker. And I'm going to do the same thing for all of the pieces for this card. Here you see me just fiddling with the sandwich so it will go through the machine. So here we go. It's feeding through and we have it cut. Now you can see that when I lift this off, there's a little zigzag piece that I just set off to the side, and that becomes inspiration for the design, and you'll see it being used later. So I'm going to run the next piece through, lining up the die one more time and using washi tape to just hold it in place. And I'm going to do this for all of the pieces. I'm removing the washi tape gently from the paper so it doesn't tear or change the color on the front of the paper. So here I have all the pieces have been cut, and I'm just kind of looking to see what they look like all together. And the next thing I need to do is, there's a little triangle design in this border, and I'm just going to use my X-Acto knife here to kind of push those through and just release them. So I'm going to do that for each piece, of course. And so that's what you see me doing here. I like to use my X-Acto knife for this. I'm just comfortable using the X-Acto knife. You can use a pokey tool or whatever works for you. Even a piece of tape would help lift those off. So I'm just cleaning up those little pieces, and I'm going to move on to each color and do the same thing. And they just pop right out of there. They're just being held in place because they're just so small. So now I'm going to start layering these pieces together and using a little bit of double-sided tape to put each layer in place. And this first one that I'm going to put down here, I've put the tape a little bit too high on the paper, and it actually sticks to the background. But I'm using this gridded surface so that I can kind of visually see how to line these up without having to really use a ruler or a T-square or anything like that. I'm just using the grid, looking at it left to right, and making sure that I have my spacing correct and lining up that border on each side and placing it down. So I'm going to do that here for each layer, and I'm just going to speed this up so that we can move through the video. But you can see here I'm just doing the same thing, applying the double-sided tape and using the grid to line up the pattern. For the light blue, it is the smallest piece of all, and I wish I really would have made a thicker piece of it, but it'll work out in the end. But you can see that it's considerably smaller. When I'm done putting the card together, it's not noticeable. But okay, so here are those zigzags that I told you that they were inspiration. I hadn't planned on using them, but when I had cut the blue paper, I got one zigzag and I thought, wow, that's kind of neat. So let's use the same die and just cut off a little teeny bit, running it through the Mini Maker twice to get the zigzag. So here they are, and I'm placing the zigzags on the color that's right below. So the light blue is on the dark blue, and the dark blue is on the green piece, and so forth. So I take those and I run them through the Xyron sticker maker to get adhesive on the back of them because they're so small, and then I'm just gonna set that aside and use it a little bit later. So here I am picking up this piece to put it onto the card, and you can see right there it's sticking to the background, and I also just kind of moved the alignment. So I'm going to put it back down for a moment and work to realign it, just visually make sure it's in place where I wanted it, get it to stick where possible. And it's just not really cooperating for me, but I do end up getting it there, and then I'm just going to hold it together and flip it over. There we go. And now I'm going to put double stick tape along the back of it so that we can attach it to the card. And so here I am just attaching more of the same double-sided tape to the back, and then we will attach that to the card. Those little scissors I'm using are from the Dollar Tree, and then they're fantastic. I love them. And you know, they're just $1. You never know what you're going to get and if it's going to be quality or not, but those little Crafter Square scissors I just really like them. I actually bought a backup pair just so that I have, in case something happens to the pair that I use. So here's the card, and I'm sticking the piece down in front onto the front, just lining it up at the top edge, because, and now here you can see I'm kind of using my hands to see what the card is going to look like when it's cut down to shape. So yeah, I just aligned it at the top, and then I'm going to take it and use my paper trimmer to cut off the sides. So there I'm just making sure all the tape's down, I'm looking at it, making sure that everything is stuck well. And then checking it one more time just to see what it looks like visually. And then I'm going to grab my paper trimmer here. This is a Cricut paper trimmer. And I'm just going to cut a little bit off of each side. So I do one side. Make sure I get all the way through there. And then I'm going to do the other side. So here you can see that it's done. And now it's time to put those little zigzag pieces in place. So I'm just peeling off the top cover and just getting that out of the way. And then I'm going to take those zigzag pieces and put them on the card. And I'm just going to line them up. I'm just visually lining them up with the pattern and just kind of guessing at the distance I want to place them. And then using the magnets to hold it down because it'll be a little bit easier to work with it that way. And so here I'm just going to speed up through the process, but you know, dealing with each one the same way is just visually lining them up with the pattern of the piece above it. and then sticking the yellow one down on the white. So using a pair of scissors, I'm just going to cut off the overhang of those zigzags. From each side, and we're almost done with this card. All it needs is a little sentiment stamped onto the front of it. So I'm really liking the texture that the ink made on the paper and what it looks like, and I'm just going to use that same Distressed Oxide ink to put the little sentiment at the bottom that says "Hello, beautiful," and so it's in the light blue color from the top of the card, and I'm just holding it in place for a moment to make sure it's well covered. And there we go. That is the finished card.